that's the truth. We should stop pretending that we don't have such a wide gulf between that side of the aisle and this side of the aisle. We have a choice right now. What worldview are you choosing for your kids and your grandkids? And again, continued tough love for my colleagues on this side of the aisle. For decades, we have been complicit by allowing the Chamber of Commerce to use cheap labor as their excuse for wide open borders, which set the stage for what we're dealing with right now. Well, those days are over. When all of the corporate whores around this town come begging for their tax breaks, I want them to come explain to the American people why we should do it when their boardrooms are chock full of radical progressive Democrats and liberals who want ESG and want their quarterly reports to do well so their stock portfolios grow, and they come in here begging for tax cuts so they can get richer while America gets screwed. Because if you're living in Springfield, Ohio right now, you don't give a damn about what the guys in the corporate boardroom over in New York City and Manhattan, or maybe in the tall buildings in Cleveland. You don't care about how rich they're getting, but you care that there's now 20,000 Haitian migrants sitting in your community that your granddads and your grandmoms and your moms and your dads worked hard to build, and it now is being trashed. And I can promise you, if you're like those young women who are testifying at the Judiciary Committee yesterday, who are migrants themselves, young woman talking about her dad who came here from Mexico and fought and worked hard and didn't take government handouts, said he was going to do it the right way, said the American dream wasn't about being given something from government. And then he had to sit here and watch his granddaughter get murdered because my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, every single one of them owns it. Every single one of them should march their happy rear ends down to Texas and beg for forgiveness. Beg for forgiveness from Alexis Nungare and Alexis Nungare's father. Because Jocelyn Nungare got raped, bound, gagged, murdered by the people released by Democrats in the White House. Let's not pretend that there isn't a mile of difference between Republicans and conservatives and Democrats and radical progressives. There is a mile of difference. I'm not going to sit here and pretend. Let's all get in a room and talk to each other nicely, pat each other on the back and say, oh man, can't we just have these halcyon days of old, have a beer like Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan? Not if you don't believe in America. Not if you don't believe in sovereignty. Not if you don't believe in the rule of law. Not if you believe it's okay to release 5.5 million people into our country, utterly disregarding how many criminals you're releasing and allowing Americans to get slaughtered. Why don't you get in the car, drive up here to Aberdeen, Maryland, and talk to Kayla Hamilton or Rachel Marin's family? Why don't you beg for forgiveness? Get on your knees in the House chamber and say, I'm sorry that I was so focused on my own political well-being that I would endanger the American people, because that's what you're doing. Finally, my colleagues on this side of the aisle in getting HR2 passed has finally forsaken the Chamber of Commerce's death grip on the Republican Party, saying we need our cheap labor. But we haven't even scratched the surface. We haven't even begun to do what is necessary to take our country back. Because when President Trump talks about mass deportations, he means it, and I mean it, and I hope to hell Republicans on this side of the aisle mean it. Because 5.5 million people dumped into the United States without vetting, without knowledge of who the hell they are. We have the House Judiciary Committee recognizing 99 people on the terrorist watch list released into the United States. 35,000 Chinese nationals this year, and the year's not even over. Who are these people? I flew out to Aurora, Colorado last week. I went to the apartment complex area, met with the people that were there, talked to one of the residents of the building, talked to the tenant who put the camera on her door. She's not lying. Yet we have Colorado Democrats who are trying to say it's a lie that Venezuelan gangs are running those apartment complexes. They get out on Twitter and they say, not true. It's a figment of their imagination. That's why I flew to Aurora, talked to the woman, and she walked through the fact that the manager of the apartment complex isn't there anymore. The manager of the apartment complex left and fled and feared for his life. For 2 months, there was no manager there. They put the cameras up. The cameras then showed what the entire world has now seen, which is armed thugs running around the apartment complex. We're told they smashed doors down, changed the locks on the building. We had a businessman who was there who helped the woman move out and said he basically stepped into the third world for a number of hours while he was helping moving her out. This is coming to every street in America. Wake up. We play up here playing tiddlywinks talking about CRs and nobody knows what the hell those even are. Like, we go around talking about all these different things. We can, let's get together and pass a resolution and a messaging thing this week. What are we going to do to finally just say no? You don't have to take this, We're supposed to be a free people. We're supposedly endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We established this government in the very preamble of the Constitution. What does it say? It lays out the purpose of the government being to secure the blessings of liberty. It's not to give crap away. As I've said before on the House floor, we're not supposed to be the United States House of free stuff. We're not the United States Congress here to give you a check. We're killing the American dream. Congress, the administration, are actively killing the American dream in real time. We vote on another bill for another program that spends more money that we don't have. We rack up more debt. We increase the interest. And at no point are we actually securing the country. We've been at war for a quarter century in some form or fashion. I don't even know how many trillions. 8? 9? I've lost count on how many trillions we've spent engaged in conflict. Directly in Iraq and Afghanistan, only to tuck tail and run when Biden and the current brass bailed and left those 13 heroes stranded to die. How many trillions? How many American men and women were injured, lost their legs, lost an eye, PTSD? 80,000, 100,000? More with PTSD? How many suicides a day? We've been at war for a quarter of a century. In this town, we can't ever fight for you, the American people, to actually secure you with a secure border, with secure communities, and with an economy that isn't blown to hell by irresponsible government spending. And you want to know why? In the false name of defense, in the false name of securing this country, because the defense world tells me every year, if I don't vote for one of these bloated spending bills, we won't get a new submarine. We won't get a new carrier. What the hell are we trying to defend? What is left of the United States to defend? A school where I can't send my child to pray to God without spending $20,000 a year on top of the taxes I pay? A school that my friend sends her sixth grader to with a trans music teacher asking her kid to do some dance in class? Yes, true story. Is that what we're defending with carriers and missiles and endless wars? Are we defending a country where Jocelyn Nungare gets raped and murdered? Or Rachel Marin gets raped and murdered because we release migrants into the streets of America? Dangerous people? There have been multiple since I literally released this report last week. Almost 50-page report, or 40-page report. Put it out last week. I can't even keep up with the news stories since we put it out. In Virginia, just 30 miles from here, a teenage girl was abducted by a Peruvian illegal immigrant, arrested, who had been released into the interior by this administration. A Palestinian migrant accused of beating a Jewish New York man, released into America because he claimed he wouldn't be safe. We had two of the people in Aurora, Colorado, where I said I went to, that were apprehended by ICE after they'd been released into the country, arrested, released on bond, because we can't detain them because our entire policies have been turned on their head. We sit here in September and we have this grand debate about whether we're going to do a continuing resolution for 75 days or 6 months or a year. Will we include the SAVE Act to ensure that American citizens vote? Heaven forbid that we stand up and say only American citizens should vote in American elections. It's an 80% issue. We have legislation